There is new technology where if people try to cross it or vehicles try to cross it illegally where there aren't border security people, there is technology in the ground that can sense it. There's thermal sensing where they can like be up in the towers and have special binoculars and other technology, and they can see actual thermal heat of people sneaking over the border in the night, because most of the people think it's easier to sneak over the border in the night. And anyways, there's, like the video said, there's 11 million undocumented residents here, so obviously the border is just something to look at because they're not getting in any other way.
Okay, visas, that's my topic. That's not specifically credit card, it's the document by which most people from other countries get to come to the US. I personally had to get a visa. So it falls, whether you apply, it falls into 4 different categories. You have family, usually it's going to be like student visas, business, travel, and as a business, student, work, and tourism. So there's about 40 different visas that you can actually get. And I'm going to go through the 4 families in general. So student visas is usually going to be sponsored by your family. You get F1, or if you're a government sponsor, you'll be J1. Business visas usually are given to diplomatics, politics from other countries. They come here to improve the relationship with the US, and it's really helpful. Tourism visas, most people would think that illegal people will come with those visas because they don't require as much documentation to get them, and they're given for a short period of time, but actually they don't, because the people who get them actually come here basically for tourism. And then we have work visas, and they are a much bigger deal because those visas are usually sponsored by a company, and that's actually a path through citizenship. It's the only visa that gives you a path to citizenship. So why are they good? They're good because they allow talented people and really skillful athletes come to the US, make this country a much better country. A couple examples would be, I don't know if you follow baseball, Mariano Rivera. It's a good baseball player from my country. Can tell you he's from a very poor background. He came here and improved this country, improved our country as well. So that's a good example of how visas are good for the United States and all great nations. Why are they bad? They are bad because once a visa is given to an individual that is not a US citizen, that person, when he's in here, has the ultimate decision whether he stays illegally after the visa expires, or he decided to go back home and apply for a new visa. In my personal experience, I got a visa for a year, learned the language, came back, and they give you a new visa for a longer time. It usually works that way. They evaluate what you do here, and then they decide they give you a new visa or not. So those are the overall like 2 sides of why visas are good, why visas are bad. I think all great nations need talented people in order to succeed, and visas are definitely a good way to do that. The problem is that the process by which visas are given, in my research, I find out that sometimes there's not really a way to track the people who get visas. And if you could track that, then you can probably have a way to see what they're doing, if they're doing what they're supposed to do, and if they need to be deported or anything else. So that's basically a quick overall about visas.
Okay, employment. Illegal immigrants have become known for being the people who do the work that Americans won't do. The average class American doesn't do, like, instead of the American doing like carpeting, painting, roofing, and everything like that, it's now the legal immigrant because they do it for so much cheaper. The High Country News stated that when workers ask for a raise, they are often reminded that there are many others who will do the same work for less, including below minimum wage. Because they work so cheap, why would someone hire an American who will work for $7.25 an hour when they can hire an illegal that'll work for like $2 an hour? The penalties for hiring undocumented workers, there's many issues with
whenever they get hired and even until termination, because sometimes they'll come on a visa and they'll be hired legally, but then their visa might run out and the employers won't check up on it to see when the visa is like done, like when it's expired and everything like that. So the Section 274A of the Immigration and Nationality Act makes it unlawful for any person knowingly to hire, recruit, or refer for a fee any alien not authorized to work. There's many penalties for these, and basically, like, a lot of money is involved. There can be $250 to $2,000 fine for each unauthorized individual, a $2,000 to $5,000 fine for each employee if the employer has previously been in violation, or $3,000 to $10,000 for each individual if the employer was subject to more than one cease or desist order. The Obama administration is working really hard to end this, but they're focusing more on the employer instead of the employee, the illegal, to make sure that employers are not hiring illegal immigrants. Numbers USA found that there are approximately 7.7 million illegal aliens employed in the U.S. job force in 2008, which obviously is more now because that's 3 years later. The Center for Immigration Studies stated that a strategy for attrition through enforcement, which includes mandatory workplace verification and measures to curb misuse of Social Security numbers, could reduce the illegal population in the workplace by 1.5 million illegal immigrants each year.
The crime aspect about like illegal immigration is basically there's a myth that not illegal immigrants commit less crime than native or citizens. This is a myth because half of the reason that it's not accounted for is because it's not identified. Most illegal immigrants don't have documentation, so they're not recognized in criminal or governmental databases, so they can't be accounted for the crimes that they do commit. That unidentified criminals, that's basically from the FBI and the judicial system that don't require all authorities to issue or publish their trace of illegal immigration within their systems, which would be like prisons, any institutions that would capture the criminals. The Uniform Crime Reporting Program is basically a program that gathers information about illegals just to publish statistics. It's not to publish actual crime rates to the FBI, so that goes unaccounted for. It's basically like a voluntary system, and it does not require state or local judicial systems to report the crimes. This could cause ultimately unrecognized crimes, unrecognized criminals, and it's just bad for them overall. There's about 80,000 illegal criminals. This has included convicted murders, rapes, drugs, child molesters, and they are captured, and once they are released, they're supposed to be deported, but that ultimately doesn't happen in all cases, so not all of them get sent back to their native land. Of 164 state and local agencies, only 30 do not ask arrested immigrant status, so that could be just they don't care or they turn the other cheek. 17 say that they don't report illegal immigration among their custody, so that again is accounted for the criminals that they do catch. 18 just don't report, regardless if they do have documentation or don't have documentation. It's not their job to report to the FBI or the UCR of those criminals. Incarcerated statistics are basically saying that there are 267,000 illegal currently incarcerated, and of those are 46,000 in federal prisons, 74,000 are in state prisons, and 147,000 are in your local jails. So it's kind of scary for me and you guys. For the crimes in the USA, there's a total of about 14 million, and of those, there's only 700 committed by illegals. And again, that's not necessarily true, just because it's hard to account for the documentation of the custody of the FBI, of state and local judicial systems. There's approximately 27% of all prisoners in the federal custody that are illegal immigrants, and that is true. they did a statistic. His name is Michael Johnson. He did a statistic which overwrites like all of the databases in the judicial system. The criminal defense is basically like a way to like defend us from this happening with our FBI system. There's a proposal in 2008, and it actually launched in 2008, that the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is ICE for short, plans to expand immigration enforcement. They basically make a program that scans fingers of all prisoners of institutions or local, states, federal, so on. The process is they scan the finger, and that traces back to all databases of the government, and if it is found to be convicted of any felony from another country or like have been in jail before because of the same reason, it reports it back to the FBI and the ICE, which would help ultimately capture illegal immigrants better so we can deport them.
Okay, well, the World Health Organization survey of legal and illegal drug use in 17 countries show that America is the highest level of cocaine and marijuana use. America was 4 times than the next country, New Zealand. A research showed that estimate 12.8 million of Americans, about 8% of population aged 12 and older, use illegal drug. And where is that illegal drug come from? Over 90% is come from smuggler. An investigation showed that 2.2 million kilograms of cocaine and 11.6 million kilograms of marijuana was smuggled to the United States in 2005. And they smuggled by land route to Mexico and sea route to Caribbean and international airport.
All right, we set up some criteria for this. Basically, we want to ensure the safety of the U.S. citizens both economically and constitutionally, while upholding the principles that this country was founded on, letting people come into this country for freedom. We want to address the illegals in the country as well as the ones coming in. We want to find a balance between security for American people and providing freedom for those aspiring to live in this country. And our solution is the United States government needs to strengthen the punishment on illegals through laws and loosen the ability to gain citizenship for immigrants entering and already living in the country. So, to break that solution down into more feasible parts. One way to handle people that are already in the country would be an amnesty program for those who have jobs and who don't commit crime or trying to be upstanding citizens. They just don't have the chance. If you were to give an amnesty program, you would be looking at a 77% increase in tax revenue immediately. But along with that, you're going to see a 118% increase in the deficit of the total budget. So the numbers don't work out, but you got to look at it as somewhat of an investment. Walter Ewing, senior advisor at the American Immigration Council, says the single biggest expense in the deficit would be the education of the children that are U.S. born and will grow up to be tax-paying adults. He says that it's disingenuous to count the cost of investing in the education of these children so that they will earn higher incomes and pay more taxes in the long run. So basically, if you just cut the taxes or if you just allow the people that are illegal in the country to start paying taxes, you're going to see a deficit at first, but in the long run, their kids are going to grow up better educated with higher paying jobs, and you're going to see higher tax rates on those kids.
With border security, what you can do, there's 3 things that could propose a possible solution. And the first one is have a relationship where the U.S. and the Mexican border has a tight enough relationship where that they can work together and secure the borders. And the punishments that the illegal immigrants when crossing, like it will lower crime, it will lower the drug cartel. Just if we have, or if the United States has a strong enough relationship with the borders of the other countries, then that will reduce some of the crossing of borders. Another one is just to keep the technology up and coming, keep it present, give the law enforcement the tools they need to catch the illegal immigrants crossing the border. And the third one is to just enforce illegal immigrants not coming across, because law enforcement doesn't have a lot of power right now, and if we just let them come across with no punishment, and once they get in, there's no reason that people shouldn't cross it illegally. Why won't they just take it that way instead of going through the tactics of applying for a visa? So we just need to give the law enforcement more power at the borders to stop it.
Okay, my solution, my research shows that the best way for a solution to cause illegal immigrations out of the workplace is to just like enforce more authority with the employer to focus on when their visas expire, like make sure that the visas are real and not fake ones, because illegals in the workforce have just become such a big deal. And I mean, obviously an employer wouldn't want to pay someone minimum wage when they could pay illegal less, but it's just what's better for our country to pay, better for our country to keep illegals out and check the visas and enforce the rules better. So.
And again, with establishing a strong relationship, I believe that a solution to solve the crime rate would just, that it'd be mandatory for all like countries, all states, and all local officials to report their immigrants, regardless of like if their numbers are inaccurate. I just think it'd be overall better, and even like that, I guess that could help.
About the visas, I think the best thing to do would be to find a way to track what immigrants with visas are doing. A way to do that would be to ask them some like support documentation whenever they enter the country again. For example, if you're a student and you have a student visa, when you come in, you just need to show your visa. You need to show an I-20, and that I-20 needs to be signed by the university, and that means that you are in good standing, both academically and economically, with the university. That proves that you're doing what you're doing here. So I think that would be a good solution for visas to be tracked.
What you could do is you could just basically report any like suspicious acts that you see. You could also, like if you're an employer, you could ask for documentation, make sure that it's up to date, and check upon it with like 3 months expansion, depending on the certain visa that your employee has. Another one with like the drugs, there's like basically a strong different foundation like overseas or over different countries, so that would just have to like be working with the government. So just kind of report what you see.